All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode 344 of Stu and the Nunn. And you got Stu and you got Nunn here tonight from the very northern studio with a lot of snow outside at a brisk 26 degrees Fahrenheit here in upstate New York. And the Nunn down there in Mexico where it's not 26 degrees. Probably not even 62 degrees. Probably warmer
Maybe
than that.
Celsius. I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly. The how you doing, buddy? It's been a while since I've been on, and it's
It
been
it's
awesome.
been a while. But yeah, it's good to be back, my man. And, I'm just returning from a wonderful visit back to the land of the free and the home of the brave. And it was great to go home. It was great to be there. It was great to see all the people hopeful for the future. A lot better conversations this time than the last time I was there. So pretty pumped about that.
Were the Thanksgiving table conversations better? You
Uh,
probably either
I
way.
avoided those. I'm just saying in general.
Ah, okay.
In general,
The
I promised my wife I would not stir any pots. Um, I would not mention, like
you
I would
you
not gloat or
you,
anything like that. Which I have
you
no
didn't do
reason
that.
to gloat.
You didn't do that.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, you didn't do that one. Yeah. The no, just doing our social stuff. No, man, it was good. Yeah, it's been a while. I've been out helping eradicate the deer population in upstate New York and filling freezers, not just mine, but several families because I give a lot of it away, including the food banks.
good for you,
And
bud.
yeah, yeah. I've gotten six so far this year, and I've gotten two more to go. I only keep two. That's all I ever keep now. Empty nesters. I don't need a whole bunch,
There you go.
but I give a lot of it away and feed families and give it to the food banks and feed really needy families. And
Well,
that's
hopefully you're still making jerky because you know y- your
you know
jerky's legendary.
everybody loves my meat, so
I'm a big fan.
yeah.
I like your meat. I
Uh, uh,
like your meat.
I've entered into new things now. I do Italian sausage, breakfast sausage, Cajun sausage. Yeah, I am snack sticks. Uh,
Mm.
I got a lot of venison, so I ventured into new things and trying my hand at different recipes. So yes, one day when we get together, I got a
The-
phenomenal
When
backstrap.
I, when I got into sausage making, that was a game changer. It
Yeah,
was a game changer.
yeah. Forget buying anything in a store. 100% organic. I know how it's made. I, t- I take it
Proof.
from I take it from farm to table, and it's me 100% all the way through and through. I grind it, I mix it, I do everything. So yeah,
Mm.
uh, it is got from God's grocery store. Hey, in honor of you, my friend, I am drinking the ever popular Puppers.
Oh, look
Yeah,
at you now.
I got my Puppers, and you know what else I got? I ordered. They have finally come out and made Gus and Brew, the whiskey from Letterkenny, which never
Yeah.
existed. And I ordered and got a bottle here at the house. I even got a T-shirt with it. So I have not
Nice.
cracked it open yet. Probably will crack it open next weekend on another hunt with some good buddies that are Letterkenny fans. But they now make Gus and Brew whiskey, so
Mm.
hopefully it's good.
Well, I'm
Some of
jealous. I'm just drinking La Croix, keeping it simple,
from I thought you were
keeping it
from
local.
I thought you were from Western Canada, not Eastern Canada.
I am, but you know, I can't go full French and get the Perrier, and they were out of San Pellegrino. So every now and then I throw some topos. I throw some topos back, but
Mexico, you got to throw some topos back.
I throw some topos back. But today I had to settle for a little La Croix.
There you go.
But
Well, hey, so it's I've been gone having Thanksgiving. We were both that and that was on a Thursday and hunting and all that kind of stuff. So I have been away for a while. Sorry about that, but yeah, I wanted to just before we get into a lot of topics, no shortage. The Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, I'm going right there. Went
uh,
down Speaking of Thanksgiving, he went down to see President-elect Trump for Thanksgiving. Trump put on
Oh,
Thanksgiving
uh,
meeting at Mar-a-Lago. Like who's who? Sylvester Stallone, all these people, a lot of his cabinet picks.
yeah.
And Trudeau crashed the party. The Canadians showed up to American Thanksgiving. If that ain't some straight up Canadian shit right there.
Yeah. Sorry. Don't want to impose.
Yes. Sorry, we know it's your day because we've already had ours, but
Yeah.
I hear the turkey's here good.
We were just here because it's Thursday. You know,
So
there's no NHL games because it's Thursday. So
yeah, isn't that what the guy said? There's no because of the American Thanksgiving holiday,
also known as Thursday.
Yeah, but so he goes down there. You know, we know everyone knows why I went down there, right? He's worried about the 25% tariffs. You know, tells President Trump supposedly, you know, you can't do this. This will break our economy. Which Trump, I think what I hear said something to the effect that, yeah, that's the point. That's exactly it. And then went into, I don't know. I was curious what you think. Was he joking? Was he serious? Was he testing the water, saying, maybe you should just become another state. We should annex you, and I'll let you be the governor. But we'll have to have two because I'll have to be a Republican Canada and a Democrat Canada. And everyone they said nervously laughed. And that's what Trudeau left with. He flew down there, Canadian tax dollars for that, to kind of be made fun of.
Well, so there's, I wasn't there.
You didn't get the invite?
I'd have enjoyed being a fly on that wall. I'd have been a loud fly because I'd have laughed my ass off. But in the past, they've had a tense relationship, and I think it boils down to self-worth and self-understanding of like reading the room. Justin Trudeau, from my perspective, an outsider's perspective, carries himself with an air of entitlement that I don't know where he gets it. He's not a wealthy guy in terms of like real wealth. In 2019, he was only worth like $9.6 million. That was before his divorce. Now he's worth $100 million, and a lot of that looks like it's all bonuses and royalties that he received from COVID. Right, so his personal wealth 10x'd in 3 years coming out of COVID.
They don't have a salary like the president does, like as a government employee. He doesn't have a set salary, and it's it.
He can make he makes 400,000 Canadian a year. So to go from like 9.7 or whatever it was, 9.8 million total worth in 2019 to 100 million in 2023. While only earning 400,000 Canadian, so he's learned how to like get bribed, but he's not a billionaire, and his family's not billionaires. Now they were kind of wealthy in Canadian terms, but not really. They're no Molson family. They're no, there's a lot.
But that's some sketchy Hunter shit right there.
Oh, it's 100%. It's all sketchy shit. Politicians, Nancy Pelosi, like Sarah Wasserman Schultz, these people making $200,000 a year, but somehow, are like crazy millionaires. Like where they're, selling stocks the day before they pass a legislation against that company.
Pays to have a spouse that handles all your stock.
And there's Republicans that do it too. It's shameful. Yep. But anyway, in the past, Trudeau's kind of, rubbed shoulders, with these world leaders and acted like he belonged at the head of the table. where in reality, Canada, while it is 1/5 the world's landmass, uh, its population is quite small. And, like, while it's got a decent GDP, it's predominantly natural resource based. And, the people doing the work and producing everything aren't in the major centers. Um, and, but anyway, Trudeau has repeatedly tried to get in Trump's good graces. And, man, he says dumb things. And, like,
Think about the trolling, and then Trump releases an AI image of him on a mountain with the Canadian flag next to him.
oh yeah, no, like,
I mean, does Trudeau not realize he's getting laughed at?
read the room. So one, now, like, there's a lot of world leaders right now that are picking up the phone. That's the right thing to do.
They're only talking to him. They're not talking to the current administration for anything.
Like that, it's the right thing to do. Pick up the phone, congratulate, um, you know, send a message of, hey, I'm looking forward to working with you. I look, good luck, happy for you and your family. Like,
Much different than 8 years ago.
yeah, I mean, I don't, it's regardless, it's a ballsy move in not a complimentary way, to go to the president-elect's holiday party and try and throw down some business.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's not the time and that's not the place. The guy's not even in office.
I wonder.
He hasn't raised his hand. He hasn't signed his name. He hasn't, given the oath.
I'm
Like,
wondering if Trump about not letting him in. Like, now tell that dude see me in a couple. Like, if he almost turned him around at the airport. I wonder if he thought about, like, because
well, no, I mean, I think, from all that I've ever heard about Trump, he's an exceptionally hospitable person.
Yeah.
I believe that he's hospitable just by virtue of the vast majority of the money that he's made is in the service and hospitality business. So I believe in his soul, he's a hospitable person. I believe he enjoys entertaining. That's why he has Mar-a-Lago as a house. Like, he's an entertainer. But I just, there's a time and a place. Politics at Thanksgiving is the curse of many places. But that's just not, like, going in and trying to, like, preemptively do something. It's bad form, and what the result was exactly what you'd expect. It's like, hey man, like, don't come at me about this 25% or whatever it was tariff when you've been ripping us off to the tune of $100 billion a year. Like, right. Today's not the day. Let's enjoy your turkey. Have you met Sly? Great guy. Like, his daughters, they're hot. I heard you're single. Like, there's like so many things that you could do.
But
the fact that he came out with, like, careful how you're in my house running your mouth. I could annex you and then decide if I want you to be in charge.
To be the governor. Yeah.
That's just a harsh, stark reminder of Canada's value to the United States. There's some things where Canada has a great value to the United States.
Right.
But all the things that are valuable to the United States that Canada offers are exactly the opposite of what Trudeau's offering. Like, the whole Keystone. Look at that beautiful ditty, right? Did Trudeau, like, help fight to keep the Keystone? No. Like, was he responsible for the loss of tens of thousands of jobs on Joe Biden's first day in office? Did he celebrate it? Yes. Like, you go down there and then you're like, hey, I'm going to talk tough with the big guy. Dude, you're still at the kids' table. You're at the kids' table. Like, send down one of your premiers. Send down one of the people that are actually engaged in commerce, and let them talk about it when the time's right. You want to go get a step and repeat moment because you're single and you're milking the Canadian people for as much money as you possibly can. You do you, homie. But like the fact that he had the balls to go down there, like, come on, man, you're Fidel Castro's kid. Everyone knows how we feel about Cuba. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, coming down there and hey, dude.
I'm just trying to get closer to my cousins.
Yeah.
Yes, and I believe that Justin Trudeau is Fidel Castro's kid. 100%.
I do too. And just like I believe Chelsea is not Bill Clinton's kid. But so you mentioned all these leaders.
100% she is not.
Yeah.
Why do you think 23andMe lost their whole thing? It's not Diddy. It's not.
When you look at the leaders, right? He's going over to watch the Notre Dame being opened back up, right? He's got leaders coming down, seeing him left and right. He's folks are coming to pay visit. He threatened the 25%. On both Canada and Mexico, and Mexico now is disbanding those caravans and moving them off to other encampments in Mexico and all that kind of stuff. They're like, oh, I know that new president, down in Mexico, she talked tough, and her first reaction, and then within 24 hours was like, yeah, we will turn these caravans around and that stuff, because Mexico will lose out. They cannot do without the U.S. Right, and
so Mexico can't do without Texas, if we're going to be honest. Mexico has more trade and does more business with Texas than anybody else in the United States combined. And they have not had the support of the outgoing administration. You could say it's tough talk or rhetoric, but in the end, Mexico wants a better relationship with the United States. They've not had a good one. They're not enjoying it right now. I bet U.S.-Mexican relations were better at the Alamo than they were the day before the election. So Claudia Sheinbaum, trying to do her part, they've been trying to do this all along.
That's a very non-Mexican sounding name, if I may say so.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like Beto for an Irish dude or whatever the hell he was. When I saw it, did they mistype that? Sheinbaum?
No, I mean,
alien bad.
I have a lot of jokes about that, but and they all involve a Tim Kennedy show that used to be on History Channel. But
okay, I didn't. That's a good one. But
shout out to my boy Tim.
Hunting Hitler, and Dr. Mike Simpson. Can't forget Dr. Doc.
Big Doc was on there too. Yeah, that was a great show, man.
It was.
That's when television was real.
My wife and I were talking about because this COVID report came out, right, and it's all just BS and all that kind of stuff. And my wife said, "Remember when you had Doc on your show and he just ripped all that and said that?" And she goes, "He was saying it back then." I'm like, "Yep,
yeah,
sure was."
Yeah.
We had him on right after.
Yeah,
he was calling BS on that. I'm like, "Yeah, he's the lowly little special forces emergency room doctor. What did he know?" But so No, Trump is definitely. I mean, he's winning already, right? We've got within 24 hours of him being elected. I mean, the votes weren't even done being counted. You had Hamas saying, "Yo, we should probably stop at the hostilities. We should probably start to get along." And you've got all these, Putin saying, "Hey, we should talk. Let's try to work." I mean, that was just in the first 48 hours. I mean, he hadn't even picked, he hadn't even picked his chief of staff yet. Once he picked her, it was game on, right? He's filling the seats. He has got leaders coming to him. They're looking for his opinion. They know they know now does not make empty promises. He makes factual threats.
No, like we were wee boys when Reagan, got elected. But what we're seeing is a repeat of that, right? You're coming off of Carter or whatever. You're going into Reagan. You're really weak, international policy, real weak relationships, and people, poking the bear, holding hostages, poking the bear. Gets elected. They were airborne before he got sworn in. We're seeing that again, but on a larger scale, right? So no wars during the last Trump administration, and then Biden comes in and everything kicks off. And why does it kick off? Because we have no response. We have
They took
nothing.
They took Crimea during Obama's administration.
Like,
Russia did crap in Trump's, and then they.
Do you think we're going to continue to send the Taliban millions of, what is it, 76 million a week or whatever bullshit it is that we're sending? Right. That payment stops. No. And that's because the last time he talked to the Taliban, he said, if you touch the hair on one American body, I'm going to bomb your ass and kill your family. Oh, and here's a picture of your house.
Yeah, there's your wife hanging her drawers on the clothesline out back.
Right there. And that's what we're seeing. We're like, Putin's like, I think I got what I got. I should be happy.
And Zelensky knows that that gravy train is stopping, and he's even saying, I'm cool with getting up some land if that means we can end, because there's no more. It's not coming. He can stare down those tracks, and there's no flatbeds coming with with missiles and tanks.
Well, money is not policy. You can say that money is support, but money's not policy. And just because you throw money at something doesn't mean you have thought behind it. And all these stupid deals, and there are stupid deals, like when we got involved in the Paris Accord, stupid deal, not good for America. And it just saying that we're going to pay for everybody else's pollution. We aren't really going to tell the Iranians to stop the nuclear plan, but we're going to ask them to slow down on it, and we're going to give them pallets full of cash. That's not a deal. That's just stupidity. And this lack of connection between the dollar and where it comes from. We had an administration that just printed money, created money, but there's no value to it.
Right.
And so the people printing it and creating it, they don't comprehend the value of the dollar. So to them, it doesn't exist. But to you and to me, they go out and earn it, and then we have to give it to the government. It is meaningful, deeply meaningful. And now, all these dumb deals, all these guys that poked the bear, and girls.
But we're talking about the foreign. Let's talk about the wins in the states, right? We have Mayor Adams now saying, I don't think we should be in a sanctuary city. You have Governor Hochul.
Is that a win?
Governor Hochul is now, she's the illegitimate child of John Elway and Nancy Pelosi. I'm convinced. But anyways, she is. She's saying that she is going to personally
complimentary to Elway.
No,
One of the finest quarterbacks ever.
was not a big fan. But but she's got his teeth. She inherited that. And Pelosi's eyebrows. But she is saying now she will personally call ICE if the New York they detain and arrest New York or illegals in New York. The state is still a sanctuary state. New York City is still a sanctuary city, but they are now talking like they've never talked before. Like Mayor Adams is shutting down all the, like you've heard about all the hotels in New York with all the illegal stuff. Well, and then they shipped them out. I could shoot from where I am standing right now. There's a hotel full of them. It's that close where I could effectively hit it without one of my big rifles.
Like plunging fire.
Yeah, I could hit it. It's not far. I can walk to it full of illegals. They are out of here on 12/31. All of the hotels in New York City are emptied out. I don't know where they're going to put them. I don't know where they're going to send them, but they are shutting it down. None of that was talked about until November 5th.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's not a win, because I don't live in New York City. I don't even like to visit it. Sorry, but I'll go to Buffalo. I got great wings, and two of my main men, you and Bells, are there. But we're talking about a policy, a local policy, a local activism attempt or successful activism that led to the death of citizens as well as police officers. You're the mayor of the town, and you didn't veto, or you didn't step in and you kowtowed to a couple of donors. And as a result, a bunch of scumbags came to your town, beat up, robbed, killed, raped civilians, and then beat cops to death on camera, laughed about it, and didn't even fucking serve a day in jail.
And you're a mayor who used to be a police captain, who was a police captain in NYPD.
That's where I was going. That's exactly where I was going. So it's not a win. That's an absolute loss. It's a loss on him. And, trying to resurrect what little bit of self-respect you have as a former law enforcement officer while you sat and allowed people into your town to kill your people, What did you think was going to happen? It's the same thing with the no bail thing. It's the same thing out with the retard out in California. Yeah, I use the R word. And that's because I think he's fucking mentally retarded. He can't common sense his way through. If you don't punish people, there's no incentive for them to stop committing crime. It's
the same with the mayor. It's the same with the mayor of Chicago. It's the same with the governor of Michigan and all the rest of them that wanted to establish these sanctuaries. And better yet, and the mayor of Denver. Now they're trying to be like Tommy Toughnuts and say that they're going to fight the federal government and became that's. I'm sorry. I don't think your people are going to go toe to toe with Custom Border Patrol and stuff who've been getting their freaking face shoved in the dirt for the last 4 years and not able to do their jobs when they come to round people up. They're rounding them up, and I guarantee you they're rounding you up if you get in the way. And to have these people act like they're all that in a bag of chips. And just talk tough. It's like the bully that's being held back saying, I'll kick your butt if this guy wasn't holding me back. Just shut up. You're a state, right? And if the federal government is coming in to enforce federal law as per the Constitution that has set aside and federal laws in the books, there's nothing you're going to do about it. Or you will find yourself in the same jail that they're getting put into. Right? It's just the bottom line. Trump
turned the boys loose, and they took care of ISIS in 45 days, right? What do you think? How long do you think it's going to take if we get cooperation from the Mexican government to clean up that situation?
Well, didn't Governor
and I'm saying clean up.
Already give him several hundred, if not 1,000 acres. They've given him a chunk of land they've set aside just for the Custom Border Patrol to set up to facilitate their deportation operation. Governor Abbott's already given him the land. Says, here, President Trump, you can have this, out in the middle of the desert, probably somewhere West Texas. I know it's hundreds of acres. Put your
We're gonna have to land the planes in between the oil rigs, but it'll be all right.
Hey,
I've seen land, man. You can land a King Air on a road.
hey, we got Governor Abbott said we got plenty of concertina wire. We'll help you out. We'll start stringing it we'll start putting that around the edges, putting pickets in. There's no boys at Fort Hood done enough NTC rotations. They know how to pound pickets and run wire. So they can make
the whole 8th Engineer Brigade can take care of some. They can take care of some business down there.
And then they can throw up a hasty bridge right across the Rio Grande just to walk them back over. They don't have to go in the water. They can just walk back over.
So we haven't had the chance to talk about this, and it happened a week before the election. Predominantly heavily Democrat Congress voted to make an amendment, basically reversing or nullifying posse comitatus, right? Which is a really polite way of saying we can't use the federal troops, active duty troops, against the people of the country. Something that's written into the Constitution, and these guys, in a real sneaky way, slid it through right before the election, and sold it internally amongst the Democratic vote as, hey, we're doing this to protect ourselves because Trump's going to be a tyrant and there's going to be civil unrest and there's going to be, we're going to win the election and, we're going to need to, be prepared for an actual January 6th kind of thing. And
right.
Well, they did that. And now that door is open. And if, the Donald wants to send the engineer brigade down to the border to put work down on a wall or a, wire mined obstacle, he can do it now.
There's a lot of
what you wish for. And this is the stupidity of when you try to bend around the Constitution, that's why it's the greatest document. And when you try to bend around it, every time, and it doesn't matter what party tries to do it, when you try and bend around the Constitution, you get bit. You get stuck.
Look, he doesn't even have to tap into the active duty. There's a lot of reserve units that are engineer units in the reserves and guard that they need a good 2-week AT, and you could rack and stack those reserve units. Those boys get to go out and they get their weeks,
some M days, getting
pick up a couple Sudas and go down.
Some Sudas.
But you take some good reserve engineer units down there and say, hey, you've got to do 100 miles over the next 2 weeks. Starts pounding these big metal walls in and stay. And look, win-win. They get a good 2-week training in their technical skill. They get to actually build stuff and do engineer stuff. They're contributing to the.
And we're paying them anyway.
We're paying them anyways. They're contributing to the benefit of the security of the country. They're on Title 10 time as it is, right? And they could even extend if they want. Maybe they want to stay a little bit longer. I'm sure they would let them do it. You wouldn't have to tap the active duty guys. They could keep focusing on their stuff. Let our citizen soldiers go down there who are probably doing engineer work in the civilian world anyways, come up with some innovative stuff. I could see some, catapults being built or trebuchet, something. I mean, just, you could do all kind of stuff. I mean,
potato guns.
Yeah, just whatever. Yeah. But it's, it is, look, one thing we learned from President Trump in his first administration, whether it's moving the embassy, was anything that he did, if he said he was doing something, he did it. And it used to make me crack me up that people get so mad. I can't believe he did. He freaking told you he was doing it. This was getting year 2, year 3 in his administration. All of these things are what he said he was going to do when he was running for office. So now that he's running again, I just keep telling the liberal people I know that'll listen to me, don't be surprised. He has never shown that he just talks just to talk. He says he's doing something, he's doing it. And I think the speed of which he's picked his cabinet and is putting people in and really not giving a damn about who he picks, not shying away, not trying to make safe picks or whatever, that he's doing what we've talked about on the show more times than I can count. And that is, he ain't draining the swamp. He's burning that shit to the ground.
So in his first administration, he made some bold picks. And I thought some of them were very thoughtful. I emotionally liked some of them, and then the guys or gal were in the position. You realize, oh, that's probably not the right person. And he did something that not many other people did in history, and that's fired people.
Fired a lot of people.
And he's like, hey man, like, and it's not just about loyalty. I know like the media painted stuff out like about loyalty in some of those, but no, General Mattis, perfect example. Like on paper, he seemed like the absolute best option for SecDef. He really did. And, the rank and file, I was a believer too. Like I drank that Kool-Aid. I was like excited, and I didn't have an issue with them burning the waiver to bring a guy that was just recently released from active duty into the civilian side. Then when he got fired, I realized, like that's why we have that waiver.
Right.
And then we saw with Austin, how many times has Austin needed to be fired? Shit, right. The guy went missing for 30 days and no one even cared.
But but Trump had like H.R. McMaster, who I really like and respect. And
it didn't work out.
But look, here's one thing. When I look back at that first administration, right, and Trump talked about this during his last campaign, and he said, I didn't know I was not a politician. I was a businessman. I didn't know all those people. I trusted some of the people. Bless you. So he said, I trust people around me to make good picks. Some of them made good picks. Some of them didn't. He said, I didn't know those people, but he said, I know them all now. He's seen what they're made of. And if you look at the first administration, he surrounded himself with a lot of general officers. And I think in my pure speculation, he did that because he thought, well, I could probably trust him if I can't trust these damn bureaucrats. Now, what he probably didn't realize is that by the time you hit the GL level, you're a freaking bureaucrat. You're a politician. And, he was picking, remember, people were talking about this. His cabinet was, Kelly, McMaster.
Yeah, so Kelly's a great example. Phenomenal at his job.
As a warfighter.
And then he got put in that chief of staff position and where he should have excelled. He had the executive experience at that level in the military. He should have excelled there. But he got political. He started playing the game.
I think he did being the man. I mean, you're the aide de camp.
Yeah. And and that's the thing. A lot of people don't like Pete Hegseth as selection for SecDef this time.
Right. And a lot of people do, but the people
I personally like him. And one of the reasons why I like him is because I think he's actually in touch with what the military experience is as a whole, cohesively, holistically. I think a general officer is not.
Right.
Especially someone that's like 3 or 4 stars. Like right. I think, and I work general staff. And like you can see where people go from warfighter to I'm not a warfighter.
Well, I mean, here's one thing I know, if I could say, is that Trump picked a lot of generals to surround himself with. Once he got in there for a while, and we know this, I know this from personal conversations that we've had with friends of ours, he started leaning on NCOs. He started leaning on trusting, right? After Dave got the Medal of Honor, he was very much entrusted by President Trump and was brought into his inner circle. A lot of people don't know that. And a lot of general officers did not like walking into a room with 3s and 4 stars, and there's a guy that he may have the Medal of Honor, but they still look at him as an E6. And would give all their advice and
door kicker.
And Trump would turn to him and say, "What do you think?" And that burned their ass. Yeah. And that's why Dave did not make a lot of friends with him, but the president's the one that brought him to the table. And he started to show that. He started leaning on and talking to, and yeah, even though Pete, was a, an officer, stuff, he wasn't a GO level, wasn't really a field grade. He was down at the platoon leader, commander level, captain level, and he's still on the ground doing stuff. Trump started to realize that's where the real experience is, and those were the opinions he started listening to.
Yeah, and so let's talk about efficiency, and I'm bringing up efficiency because it's going to lead into a couple of these other picks. But I remember, and one of the reasons I got out, and didn't seek reenlistment, UMR, unit manning roster, and you as a first sergeant, that's really your first taste of it, right? And then I know that there were times as a first sergeant you had to cover down on your sergeant major, and I know that you have the experience of understanding UMR. And once you're in a position where you're manipulating your unit manning roster so that people have jobs, even though that they're not mission critical, they're not essential, and you can't just jettison somebody off your rules because they're a worthless piece of shit. And once you start manipulating that, the value of the force, the lethality of the force, the efficiency of the force, the productivity of the force, it all sinks.
Yep.
And when you have people that they are more focused on that, the crunching of the number, not the human, not the role, not the task, not the purpose, you're faced with inefficiency, and bureaucracy runs.
Dude, I showed it head when 9/11 happened in the Guard. I don't know if you were in the Guard prior to 9/11.
I was active duty, baby.
Yeah. So it was, especially in the Guard in New York, right? There's a term called ghost soldiers, right? And they didn't carry ghost guns, right? They were just ghost soldiers, and they were on a UMR, they were on a pair of line because in the Guard you get paid, you get money. The state gets money for every soldier they have to help for support training and feeding and do all that stuff. Well, if you report you're only 50% strength, you're only getting 50% money. So if you think about that at the state level, right, at a state and the entire Army and Air Guard that's in a state, right? Nope, our numbers are full, right? We're there, and you would beg a soldier to maybe come in for a couple hour period, and you'd count him. He only has to do that. He or she only has to do that once every 3 months, and they're considered active without lying about it. But then 9/11 happened, and in the state of New York, we all got activated. And when those musters happened and everyone got in formation, those formations were not as full. Like, why do we have a platoon and a half out of 3, right? And half of them are in crutches. Like, then we started purging, and then the truth came out. And I'll tell you, there was hell to pay. It took that for them to realize we had to start purging the ranks and the roles, because they were taking up spots. People couldn't even transfer into states. They couldn't even get into units because, nope, it looks like the unit's full. And people were lying all the way up to the top levels of the chain of command so they could get money. That level of stuff is happening.
Yeah, and they have that affliction in active duty too, and it's financially based, right? Because your funding's based off of the number on your rolls. If you have that person in a power of authority, you're going to continue to get inefficiency.
Those kind of results, yeah.
So, do we have a bunch of bureaucracy that are ineffective? Do we have a bunch of institutions within the United States government that are inefficient, ineffective, and a huge financial burden on the citizens of the country? Absolutely, yes. 100%.
That's where
now everyone's like, oh, he's just picking his friends. No, let's just look at a businessman named Elon Musk who bought a business, investigated that business, cut 80% of its workforce. It's now more efficient, making more money, and a better operating system.
Yeah.
And that was because what he cut weren't productive employees. And when he said, "Hey, I think COVID's over. I think you need to come back to work and actually sit at a desk and demonstrate your productivity and be part of like this assembly line of effort." People are like, "Oh, got rid of them." And what happened? Things got more effective. Things got better. And so when you put smart minds, like Vivek, I think Vivek's a pretty smart guy. I think if Donald Trump wasn't running for president, I think Vivek would have had definitely a longer campaign, and his name would really be known within the party. And I think it is now. And I think, being a cabinet member, a member of cabinet, is going to give him some of the bona fides, for a run later on. And I absolutely believe that he's probably going to make a run for it. Using guys like that are proven successful businessmen
from outside the beltway. They come in with acumen.
Yeah. And again, like this, hey, we don't need 800 new tactical officers for the IRS. Right?
83,000.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about tactical officers.
Oh, there's 83,000 agents. My bad. Yeah.
Right. We don't need 8,000 tactical officers where every county and town in the entire country has a police force and a sheriff's department. Like, we don't need tactical officers to go enforce tax law. You can send an agent with his paper and escort them onto the thing. Like, we don't have to add to this, and we don't have to empower people to violate more civil rights. In the last election cycle, in the primaries, you had guys like Ted Cruz bringing up the inefficiency of certain law enforcement agencies. And, it's like, well, he said abolish the IRS, Cruz did. And, there's something to be said for that. You don't actually need it. You need a good tax code. You need a fair tax code, and then you can use your law enforcement to enforce it if necessary. But having these agencies, like, did Kash Patel know that when he did that podcast, a year ago? When Kash Patel did the podcast, Sean Ryan podcast, what was that?
Right.
A year ago or 8 months ago, 9 months ago?
Months ago, yeah.
Yeah, long time ago. He laid out basically what ended up being, I guess, his job interview. Like, for the FBI.
Trump was watching Sean Ryan, but
Barron somebody was watching that.
But no, he's putting these people in, and there's a couple that have been surprising. There's a couple that I think are phenomenal picks, but hey, he didn't call me for my advice, and that's okay. Right. He knows how to run this country. He knows how to run a business. And he, like we talked about, he learned from his first time that, he needs to vet some a little bit better or know what he's looking for. Right. Because he did fire a lot of people first time. And guess what? If they don't step up and he'll play along, he's going to fire them this time. Yeah. And, I loved it when
there's nothing wrong with that.
Like, I loved it when he started making these picks.
Nothing wrong with firing somebody.
We've all seen it, right? They people just want to kick the can down the road, right? When I was in Afghanistan and we had, we were doing the ETT mission, and there was a shitty guy, he's an NCO or an officer that wasn't doing it. All they did is send him to another corps. They never fired anybody. We saw guys that were captains and majors and E8s and different ranks that are like, oh, where you been? And they tell me they were like in 3 or 4 different corps. I was in 203rd and 205th. I was like, oh, okay. Like, you don't get bounced if you're good. You get bounced because you did something or didn't do something, and they threw you over to another unit. They never held anyone accountable. Well, that's the same way the government works, right? They don't hold people accountable. And worse, the government has unions, right? And I know, look, been working from home for a long time. Rob's talking in chat about working from home. I know he does and stuff. Yeah, there are people that can work from home, right? But not everyone can. Even in the commercial sector, they do not have the discipline and stuff to do it. Let me tell you, there's enough oxygen thieves in the federal government that steal oxygen from the rest of us, that earn it, that steal a paycheck, that don't do squat, that cannot work from home because they don't do shit now when they sit inside of a nice cherry wood cube. They don't do anything from home. So they need to be purged like they worked at freaking Twitter. That needs to happen.
Like I haven't seen him yet. I look forward to him. Maybe Chuck can make him since he's the greatest meme generator ever. But I look forward to seeing all the memes from Office Space with Vivek and
they've
Elon's face, as the Bobs.
What exactly do you do here? Yes. Oh, that's exactly them. Yeah.
No, like I look forward to that, like, because we need that. Some of these, the thing that is really kind of bumming me out though, and I'm gonna hop on a soapbox real fast, is the use of like the weaponization of sexuality. And man, like I saw this thing, Elizabeth Warren's like, oh, there was this many rapes in the military, and 1 in 6 girls in the military gets raped. And first of all, I want to say it's sexist because she didn't once mention how many dudes get raped, knowing that number's higher. So like, shame on you, you sexist person, Elizabeth Warren.
She's Native American. Not sure.
But it's like, oh, that's your thing. Like you don't know anything about Pete Hegseth. You don't know a thing about him. You probably think he was just a male model that got a job on Fox. You probably don't know what his actual military experience is. You don't know what his nonprofit experience is. You don't know what his actual managerial experience is. You don't know any of that. And what you're coming out with is, oh, I'm going to give you some stupid rape statistic, and we can't have Pete Hegseth because, like, he's a dude. He's a dude. Therefore, rape is going to continue. And it's the weaponization of sexuality. And it's like, oh, I don't have anything actual, factual, logical, or correct to say. So I'm going to Joy Behar my way through it and just say rape culture. I'm going to say sexism. I'm just going to say,
interject real quick.
And it's just like this whole weaponization of sexuality.
This goes with your story, if I can interject. Those are the same people that are celebrating Hunter Biden getting pardoned. I'm just going to that right there and get back to you. But those are the same people. A guy who's 1,000 times worse has done things on record, on video, on his own video, and they're celebrating that he got pardoned. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people have heartburn about Hunter Biden being pardoned. I'm a dad, and while they haven't done anything really bonehead yet, like to my knowledge, they haven't filmed themselves, snorting cocaine off the ass of a hooker or smoking crack with a hooker. To my knowledge, they haven't done that yet. Or buy a gun and then freak out and then throw it in a trash can behind an elementary school. Like, to my knowledge, they haven't done shit like that yet, or help me like embezzle a bunch of money from a foreign country. But if they did, and I was the president of the United States, and I'm a dad, of course I'm going to pardon my kid. I'm just not going to go around for 4 years telling you I'm not. Well, I would just say for 4 years, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
We also grew up in a time where you got popped in high school, you stayed the night, right? You didn't always get bailed out, right? You want to do that? We also know, and I know people like Stu. There are people that are such fuck ups. They need to get their life straight. It takes that, right?
Yeah,
so I know
sure.
Said that.
Sure.
I said, I'm a dad. I get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it because it wasn't like he ran a stoplight and they're like trying to give him prison time. That'd be different, right? This guy
he's a legit fucking piece of shit.
If you look up piece of shit in the dictionary, it's him right next to freaking slept with my dead brother's wife.
Impregnated
my
brother's widow.
Right. So he's about as piece of shit as you can get in modern time without murdering a whole bunch of people. And sometimes as a parent, it's called tough love. And you got to be, hey, now I could see him maybe let him get sentenced, do a couple months. And he's like, oh, on the 19th or 20th, I'll pardon him or whatever. If he wants to do that, not going to say I agree with it, but okay. But hey, maybe he needs to do a little time to realize there's repercussions for your actions. Because right now the dude's smirking and smiling, thinking he got a 10-year long get out of jail free card.
Yeah, and gets to keep his money, right? So no, it's I really, I really think that there's going to be like a reckoning on some of the stuff, and we've seen the pendulum swing, right? And we've seen the weaponization of like the DOJ, and Ray needs to go. Ray's a criminal, and anyone that wants to like talk facts, the dude had something like 7,000. He signed 7,000 like FISA warrant applications.
Yeah.
Right. Illegal FISA warrant applications.
Ray and Orcus are both criminals and freaking should be prosecuted for what
they've
done.
No, like, and the whole thing about the FBI director, it's supposed to be an apolitical position. That's why its appointment's 10 years.
Right.
So it's supposed to span multiple administrations, and it's supposed to be an atypical person. But you got like Ray openly wearing campaign shirts from Biden Harris, right? Like sitting in his couch at home or his love seat or wherever it is, wearing a Biden Harris shirt. Like that dude is deep state. He signed, which are felonies. Like he is a criminal, and you can't have a criminal as the top cop in the United States.
Right.
Like he's got to go. And, like you can't just turn around and be like, oh, well, you can't talk to this person because of their sexuality. You can't talk to this person because like they have this tenure. No, like a piece of shit's a piece of shit. And like, we can't keep weaponizing or allowing people to weaponize the stuff. Like, oh, this guy's a dude, so therefore, like every woman's going to get raped. Like the thing that drove me nuts about the election cycle was everyone crying and bitching and getting so heated and wanting to fight and shoot each other and stab each other and throw punches over women reproductive rights. And it's like the president of the United States cannot do that.
Right.
You need Congress, and then that's both houses. And he didn't repeal Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court did that. And everyone lost their shit and they just weaponized it. And their answer is like, and if you don't, then you don't love your daughters. You don't love your wife. You're like, actually, I do love my daughters and I definitely love my wife.
I would love grandkids, which, my daughters and stuff to have grandkids one day would be great. One thing around the justices, right? People are like, well, those are justices that Trump picked. Well, okay.
What about the other 7?
But all 9 of them voted that what Colorado and other states tried to do by getting Trump thrown off the ballots in those states, no, unanimously said no. Yeah, presidents pick Supreme Court justices. That's the way they happen. And they act like that was a crime. But at the same time, right now, they're begging for Sotomayor to step down so Biden can put a longer-lasting, younger Democrat in there. I mean, I feel like she just got put in the position. Now they're already begging her. They were begging for Ruth Bader Ginsburg to step down. They wanted, so they say, oh, a president, he picked him. That's his picked people. Well, we all saw through Kavanaugh and everyone else, they get run through the ringer in front of all the cameras.
Again, the weaponization of sexuality.
Right. And Roberts and all of them that were picked by different Republicans have all voted every which way, which is the way you want them to vote. You want them to be apolitical and unbiased, just like you want your intelligence agencies, your law enforcement agencies, your science and CDC, all to be non-political. But unfortunately, I don't think there's an organization. I think the American people today would agree there is not one part of the federal government that they feel is completely apolitical to whoever's in office in administration, because the most sanctified the organizations that we thought we could trust, NIH, CDC, FBI, Secret Service, you name it, we thought were above approach, that had nothing to do with who was in office, have all demonstrated that they are as freaking in bed with one side as they are the other, at least at the leadership level.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bongino is a great choice for Secret Service as a former Secret Service agent.
I hope that's what
you know, like I think that's a great choice. This whole non-political thing, though, like we used the IRS in a previous administration to attack families, to attack businesses. The IRS should never have been utilized as a weapon against political opponents. You know, like, and that's, and there's no faith. And I think like that's going to be the beauty of, you know, Robert F. Kennedy, man. like how awesome is that? That the guy that's going to be in charge of that is a guy that's his bailiwick. Right. You know, like that's his bailiwick. I think Tulsi going in, you know, national intelligence, man, I think that's smart. One, pretty good military resume.
Actually, I was kind of hoping she'd get DHS so she could oversee the ones that were following her around and are you know, putting her on a watch list. That would have been kind of good, you know.
Well, she's above that. So she can still do that. She can still get herself off the watch list.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example, man. Like, how is it that we can put a congresswoman, former presidential candidate,
and lieutenant colonel in the reserves,
and a field grade officer on a watch list because she called out Hillary Clinton, truthfully, factually, you know, like this weaponization of the government against political opponents. And I laughed earlier because you talked about Colorado. And the reason I laughed is because they did this whole activist, you know, we're going to remove Trump, you know, from the thing. And they're like, oh, we're not allowed to do that. Well, what we'll do is we're going to ignore, you know, the electoral college, and our electoral votes will go to the popular vote. And whoever wins the popular vote will get all the electoral votes for our state. And that was like this huge FU. And they even called it like the Trump bill, like when they were putting it through like the state legislature. And then what happens? He won the popular vote. And they have to go. It's like, come on, man, stop bending the rules. Every time you bend the rules and then you go against the Constitution, you just screw yourself.
Well, it's just like 2-3 months ago, they were all for getting rid of the filibuster. And even Kamala was campaigning that she was going to get rid of it. And as soon as he won, they are literally on record now going, we need the filibuster. That's the only way we can stop Trump. We need the filibuster. It's like all it takes is anyone with common sense to know if you do that, it's going to come back to bite you. You're not in power forever, right? Trump has 2 years right now. There's no guarantee, no matter how awesome his cabinet looks and how great things look like they may happen. We don't know what's in store. In 2 years, the House or Senate may flip. Hell, the House is close as it is, right? It may flip. He may not have the mandate he has. It's like GW had it the first 2 years, and then he didn't do anything with it. So Trump's got 2 years to make shit happen, and that's it, right?
Yeah, and the reality is so we are so damaged. It's not like last time where you know he's coming in, you know, off a 2-term Obama. Right. You know, like it's a little bit different. A lot more damage has been done. Like
there's a reason why he's making all these picks because that dude,
like he has
running on the 20th.
Yeah, no, like you know, the things that he did the first time, like his very first executive order was the protection of historically black colleges
and universities. Yes.
and you know, like,
And then protecting Martin Luther King's birthplace, make it a
yeah,
national historic.
like, you know, and you know, and no one even talked about that. And you know, but he's the greatest racist ever. Martin Luther King's widow disagreed when she stood next to him on stage and thanked him for doing that, and with her grandkids.
And then
The
came out the Chance Act. It was releasing people out of prison that, to give them another chance. Mostly
Yeah.
minority people, right?
Vast majority
Yeah.
were, you know,
Not pardons for rich white kids snorting coke off of hook pits,
No.
like Biden's son, right? People that were given a hard,
like a raw deal.
yeah, and
No,
couldn't
like
himself.
he's got 2 years, but he's got 4 years of super big damage. The debt, you know, that Biden
Yeah.
ran up, the inflation, like all these things that, you know, drill baby drill is going to help some of it. You know, starting, you know, less importation and more exportation and more manufacturing, like that's a big part of it. But man, there's a lot of damage done. And
Anyone
like
can do it, to be him. And actually,
he's got to get after it. But the biggest challenge he has is the American people have to believe in America again.
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing. And sadly, you know, like, and this is the logic that, and I have very liberal, and as you know, I have very liberal views on some things. I have some very conservative views on some things. I'm an issue guy. I'm not a party guy. I'm an issue guy. But it shouldn't be cool. It shouldn't be cool for you to cry in your sandbox and then take your toys and leave the sandbox instead of like figuring out how to get along with the other kids and share your toys.
Right.
This whole like, I'm leaving the country, like how ridiculous and how idiotic do you sound? And how idiotic are you if you celebrate like, instead of like fixing the problem or enriching my neighborhood or making my community better, I'm going to flee because I'm a crybaby little bitch.
Right.
And, you know, like,
Look
hey, good job, Ellen. You know, like, good job. You know, like, I'm sorry about your house. But like all these people, like, I'm moving out of the country. Like, you don't understand. And this is how, like, every time you open your mouth, your ignorance shows, Taylor Swift. Like, you're a billionaire because of America. You're a billionaire because American dads let their daughters spend money on you. Some of us even like your music. You got a couple good songs out there. I'm a fan of some of your lyrics. I'm a fan of some of your tunes. But like, the only reason you have a platform and the only reason you have money is because hardworking American men and women take their money because they have some and spend it on you.
And spend a couple $100 on your tickets and $50 on a t-shirt made in a foreign country, probably China.
But you're like, if he wins, you don't even know anything about him. You don't know anything about him. I don't like the way he talks. You know, like, I'll probably get struck down by lightning. But man, every time he like talks, the way he talks sometimes, I'm like, dude, I agree with what you're saying. I just wish you said it not like such a douchebag. You know, like when he came out and, you know, and like did the whole non-transgender thing in the military, I agree. I still agree. There shouldn't be any transgender people in the military. And it's not because I don't like transgender people. It's not because I have a phobia. I'm not afraid of them. It's because that they're detrimental to the strength of the force. Yep. It takes too many doctors. It takes too much money. It takes too much counseling to have you in a position that is non-deployable. If you can't deploy and you can't fight and you can't defend this country, you shouldn't be in the military.
Right. You can't do the job.
Just like you shouldn't be in charge of the math department at MIT if you can't pass college algebra.
Yep.
Like, I'm just saying, if
yeah.
you don't understand the quadratic equation, you shouldn't be in charge of MIT.
Man, I can't be there. I don't even know what that word is. So, but you know,
I wrote it down. It's in my notes.
Did you? Oh, that's good. Yeah. What is that in Spanish? But no, it's look, he's surrounded himself with good people. I'm super excited because, you know, this country's excited. You know, I mean, people are really, you can see the temperature. I know you're kind of in and out of the country, but people just, I mean, they're amped up. And even friends of mine that are on the left and were kind of upset at first. I'm like, don't worry, you're going to benefit too. You just don't know it yet. Like we've seen it already, right? We've already, up until COVID happened, this country, people forgot because COVID just screwed all of our minds up. We don't even remember what life was like before COVID. And those 2 or 3 years just seems like a different, like an alternate universe. But dude, stock market was rocking, gas prices were down, food was great, wages are great. We were just clipping along. And you know what? Things were not good when he took over after Obama for 8 years. And even the stuff of people before that. I have confidence that he's going to come in. He's going to run this country more like a business than he ever has before. And he has surrounded himself with people in and out from the Beltway that have shown their loyalty and that they believe in the same vision. I think he can do it in 4 years.
Yeah. I think, you know, I'm more concerned about who's going to follow him.
JD, I think, is the guy, and I think as long
as you know, like, and that's what we're going to see, right? I think he was a good pick.
He told JD on the convention floor, "Be ready for a long ride." He picked him to carry on the torch for the next 8 years.
No, like the only pick that I didn't understand, and I'm glad it kind of washed out. So I don't know if it was just like, hey, I'm gonna say you, and I know it's not gonna pan out, but you know, here's a hat tip for, you know, a couple years of loyalty. I didn't understand Getz as the AG.
I didn't. I was like I didn't. Dude, he had qualifications to be an AG.
Yeah, I mean, who I'd love to see in that position is Ted Cruz.
I was with you. I was Ted Cruz, Trey Gowdy. I like Pam Bondi.
Oh, Trey Gowdy. Oh no, like Trey Gowdy's like, that's the dream team, right? He's better than Cruz. The reason I was leaning towards Cruz, I've you know, is because he's a constitutional scholar. He clerked at, you know, the Supreme Court. He understands the law and the Constitution better than anybody. And what we have right now from the top down is a lack of respect for the Constitution. Whether I like it or not, my YouTube feed, my Facebook feed, it's probably because of Mr. Grisham Esquire. You know, there's all these videos of like cops and agencies violating people's constitutional rights. And I don't know how all these, like, somehow in the algorithm, and I've been like trying to like not, you know, like
you've been clicking on
them, but like, there's such a distrust, and the American people need to get back to appreciating their civil rights. They need to appreciate the law enforcement is going to protect those civil rights and not step all over them. And, you know, this us versus them, it needs to go back to we and us. And man, I think the AG position needs to be somebody that believes in the Constitution. Trey Gowdy would be awesome. You know, Trey Gowdy would be phenomenal. I would love to see those hearings.
You know, what gets me is the people on the left that came out and said all he's doing is picking people that are loyal to him. And I was like, yeah, that's what every president does. No president picks a cabinet member that, you know, I didn't see Biden pick Sean Hannity to lead DHS, right? You know, no president picks. They pick people loyal that are going to support their vision and carry their mantra because they're representing the executive branch. And their
or he picks an opponent that is best suited for the job. Like in his last administration, he brought in a couple Democrats and threw them in cabinet roles because he felt like they'd be good for the job. A couple of them hung in there. Like RFK, man, RFK Jr. That's a political opponent.
RFK Jr. was, Tulsi was,
Now they did campaign and help his cause by, getting behind him. But in the end,
Trump was a Democrat. He wasn't a lifelong Republican.
Correct.
He was a Democrat up till not long ago. All of these people that have hated him, right? We've seen the old pictures of Oprah and Hillary and all them. They were all loving getting their pictures with Trump. Everybody, he was their man, right? Oprah even talked about campaigning with him and running with him as VP back in, and Trump loves to bring. He even showed the letter, right? He brought that shit out. What you got?
One of the things, to touch on this quickly, because I know we don't have a ton of time, but
gotta wrap up.
Now that some of these numbers are coming out about the campaign, right? So the Harris Walz campaign came up 20 million short. Now, I remember when Hillary ran, she had a $20 million budget, and it was the largest budget. She'd raised the most money ever. And Harris, dwarfed that, eclipsed it. And she has more debt, post-campaign debt, than the highest campaign prior. They paid people like Beyonce. Beyonce was paid $10 million for 3 minutes to get up there and really say nothing factual.
Right.
Just, hey, I'm Beyonce. You should vote, because all the single ladies, $10 million. And so now this information's getting out, and the American people hopefully understand that when someone endorses something,
because
it's supposed to be because they believe in it.
Right.
And man, I would love to see some campaign funding, ratification. I don't think you should be able to pay for an endorsement.
Right.
Well,
look at those.
You either endorse somebody or you don't. And your campaign contribution is your voice, is the use of your platform, not financial. The reason we don't have $2 bills in a regular circulation is because they were given out for votes back in whatever that was. How is it that we can pay somebody to endorse somebody? And that's a lot of money. I mean,
Musk was giving away $1 million a day to people that just signed a pledge that they supported the Constitution from swing states. He wasn't giving $1 million a day for people to vote for Trump. He was saying, if you will sign a pledge that you support the Constitution and what it means, you could be put in for a drawing for $1 million a day. And they tried to stop that. Eventually they lost and he was able to do it, but they tried to stop that. Yet she spent of that 200,000, she spent 200,000 for those 7 concerts on November 4th, on the night before. They put on 7 concerts around the country, right? Bruce and Beyonce and Cardi B and all that bullshit, right? She spent that 200 grand, went to those in swing states where she didn't win one of them, right? It was just, I mean, it's as fake as when you see a commercial and it says this is an actor, right? Usually has a disclaimer.
Yeah, no, you have to say actor portrayal.
Right. But then again, remember
and if you're an influencer, you have to say that this is a paid endorsement.
Right. Remember back when Kamala met with the little kids about NASA, and then it came out that those little kids on the porch were all actors. She had a word salad. She talked about how cool space is and all that kind of stuff, and NASA. And all these little kids of all different colors, shapes, sizes, were all sitting around, looked great, makeup was great. And then it came out, they were all actors. And then you had the men, for Harris ad that happened in October, right? The 5 or 6 guys in the back of their pickup truck and this and that. I'm not afraid to vote for Kamala. All actors. So I mean, I guess that was that's the way they did things, right? I guess they think that's just the way you do it. You just pay people to say and think the American people are so stupid that they'll never figure that out and think that these people really like you.
Yeah, no, like the fight is, I think it was California was like trying to like pass a law about commercials where you're like, you can't tell a lie in a political commercial. It's like,
yeah.
hey,
We got just left. I did want to hit on, obviously there's so much more news. The United Healthcare killing and all that kind of stuff that's still ongoing.
Awkward.
But the other day, I do want to spend just a couple minutes talking about what a little bit what you feel comfortable talking about with what's happened with Tim. I've been getting texts and messages, people asking me because they know, obviously we know Tim and friends with him, and they know I got a connection and stuff. But I would like for you to just kind of talk about, give someone a high level overview, our listeners and viewers, of kind of what has happened and why Tim put out a video.
So, I'm going to say that it's not just Tim, right? So there's this, and it's when you kind of track the money back, you can kind of see where it's coming from. There is a very well-funded, concerted effort to discrediting certain people that they believe are important and have a platform or that disagrees with them. I'm going to use Jocko Willink as an example. Jocko's a former commander within the Navy and Naval Special Warfare at different levels, from a platoon command all the way up. He is, a huge podcaster now. He started doing podcasts probably 8 or 9 years ago. Nobody can tear a piece of literature apart like Jocko can. The dude's amazing. Masters in literature, super well-educated dude, businessman, American businessman. Him and his partners brought Origin jeans and geese from textile, like bought an old textile loom, one of the last existing textile looms in the United States, and made it operational. They have the only operational loom in the entire United States. It's sad that there's only one loom left, and that's up in the state of Maine. But, there's rumors that Jocko Willink might, get some kind of appointment in this administration, this upcoming administration. And so it's like, oh, let's go after him. Let's attack this guy because he has a big following. The central piece to a lot of this is Joe Rogan. So a lot of these guys that they're going after have a relationship or, have been platformed by Joe Rogan or, early on, Joe Rogan had a connection to him or they're friends with Joe Rogan. And so they're going after these guys and they're just trying to discredit them. In Tim's case, a podcast went after him purely for financial reasons. They are trying to build an audience. They're trying to get their sponsors happy. They're trying to get more money out of their sponsors. Sponsors are kind of dictating what kind of content they're doing and making suggestions. And, the reality is you got a couple of guys that probably don't deserve a platform. They're not guys like Joe Rogan or Sean Ryan that started off doing something on their own, paid for on their own, out of their own pocket. Everyone talks about Joe Rogan getting this $100 million deal from Spotify, but they forget that him and his producer that he started the show with, this kid named Jamie, built that up on their own, out of their own dollar. And they're not beholden to anybody. And, they're in control of their content and they just talk to people that they find interesting. Jocko's the same way. Is something is, he talks to a lot of authors, primarily military guys or military things or jujitsu. He's a big jits guy. And, Tim's one of those guys, and, he's a big platform guy. And there's this thing within the veteran community too, that is absolutely disgusting. And you and I have talked about this ad nauseum. Like, the veteran community is the most brutal, cutthroat, hating Blue Falcon group on the planet. I don't know what it is, why a veteran can't support another veteran. And if a veteran doesn't support another veteran, then we got to put them out there as a horrible piece of crap. And it's just terrible. There's so much meat on the bone.
High school mean girls, it's
worse. It really is. And man, the military is made of every shape, size, and color. So to think that everybody agrees and thinks the same way and feels the same way about things, I mean, that's just asinine and naive, super naive. Everyone thinks that the military is this community of staunch Republicans. It's not. In fact, when you want to look at it from a leadership level, it's very democratic. Petraeus, McChrystal, all these guys, they're all Democrats. And they're brilliant minds. And, and they shaped, generations worth of warfare. The going after somebody and then picking apart their life to try and find something that you can try and get, I gotcha. And they spent 3 hours trying to get Tim Kennedy and made it look like they got Tim Kennedy, and they didn't get anything.
Right.
They didn't get a thing. What they got was, he said he put 50 grenades in a bag and threw it into a house. No, what he said was, I loaded a speed bag. I loaded 2 speed bags, one with magazines and one with grenades. And then Nick asked him, how many grenades? I don't know, 25, 50, a friggin' bazillion. I put in as many grenades as I get in the bag. And if you asked me to tell you how many grenades I'd put in a bag, I'd tell you as many as I could. What's that number? I don't know, 1 million? And I wished I had 1,000,001 if I was going into a known hotspot where we knew we were going to get ambushed. It's a straight movement to contact, and we're just waiting. Of course, I want as many grenades as possible.
Right.
And you're gonna harp on that. You're gonna talk about failing at a sniper school. Okay. You've never failed out of a military school for any reason at all. Even if Tim failed out for inability, he went back and graduated and then went on to achieve some of the highest level of sniper training, if not the highest level of sniper training available.
And just for some folks, there are some schools in the military that it is completely acceptable and understandable to fail out the first time. In fact, there's schools that if you make it through the first time, it's considered an anomaly. Right?
It's a surprise.
Right. And some of those are, things like sniper school, SF selection course, Delta, Jump Master School, right? There's schools. I remember when I went to Jump Master, there were guys like, this is my second or third time. I was like, cool, man. I hope to get this time. You don't even have an ounce of looking down on that person because you know what it takes to get through there. It is common for the washout rate to be so high, but it's more admirable that they come back and go through all that shit again.
Oh, and that's what you want.
And BNOC, I failed out of PODC. Well, fuck, you should probably get out of the Army. That was pretty much hand walked through, right? That's not a tough school, right? I didn't make
that's
through.
That's not what we're talking about. No,
right,
yeah.
We're not talking about that. I didn't make through air assault school. What, did you get hurt? No. Well, I don't know how you didn't make through air assault school, right? But some of these schools, it's totally common. Dude, that's still a great job. At least you tried.
No, I'll talk about Ranger School quickly. Ranger School has an attrition rate, a ridiculous attrition rate, especially in, day zero, because they don't have room in the class. So they're going to get rid of as many people as they possibly can. And out of those guys that don't get in, there's some really good Rangers in there, right? And they're going to have to go back and try again and be better prepared. No, like the and knowing Tim, and I'm not speaking for Tim, but just knowing him, and like obviously I'm biased. I have a lot of affection for him. He's family. His book wasn't a tell-all; it was a bear-all, and he talks and confesses to some things that even when he was saying, all right, I think this is going to be in the book. I was like, hey dude, I don't know. Like, you don't have to put all your business out there. Like there's things that,
I think
you don't need to know about your family.
Yeah.
And, and I got to tell you, like, and God bless him, man. Like he put his life out there, as we like to say, warts and all, right? Like I have a pretty checkered past, and, he has a checkered past, and he owned up to it, and he took accountability, and at the detriment of his family, because he's got kids, and they're going to know about some of these bad decisions that he made. They're going to know about some of his bad behaviors, and, and it's going to, like kind of take some of the dad hero away. But he was honest about it, and he's exposed himself, and he was vulnerable, and he bared it out there. And then for someone to come around and be like, oh, well, you said this. You're like, yeah, I said I filled the bag with this many grenades. How many are in there? A bazillion. Like, right. Everyone knows, like, bazillion isn't a word. So you got hung up on the fact that there was 50 in a bag. Yeah, dude, that's all you got. Like,
so let me ask you real quick, Toby. So they did a 3-hour podcast just trying to rip him
3 hours
and just rip his book apart. But what
his life apart?
I know he came out with this video. It's up on Instagram of he put a quick video like a couple days before, said he was going to do it. And then he sat down and did this video of kind of explaining some of the things and answering some of the stuff. And I think he even said it in the video, right? He should have just said F it, not done. And he got advice from people saying ignore it. What could you say? What do you think motivated him to take the time, energy, and effort to sit down and even do that video? Almost, just even give them the credibility of answering them.
So by answering, you kind of do validate these guys, and like Tim's a sweet guy. He's a nice guy. He didn't say anything derogatory about these dudes at all.
You're right.
And I got to tell you, like, there's a mountain of crap that they're talking about him and what kind of character he is. Well, I know he doesn't lay his hands on women. I know that. I know that while he has not been successful in every attempt of a fight or a school or whatever it is, he never quit.
There, we'll just leave that right there, right?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like,
he did it. Why do you
so much? He validated them by like answering, but I understand why he answered them. He answered them because like there's a greater thing at work here. And it's not just a couple of douchebags that are trying to like pick up some followers and some, clout or some street cred because they talk shit about a famous guy that they wish they were like, right? So like, a lot of guys say, man, I trained jits. I could probably fight in the UFC. Okay, maybe. He did. There are a lot of guys that, talk shit about Ranger School. Like, I can make it through Ranger School, first time, no problem. Did you get an award at the end of it? Like that was like one of the things like cracked me up. They're like, oh, his peer evaluations. Oh, there's a record of peer evals. You talk to some RI and he's like, oh yeah, Tim Kennedy's peer evals were shitty. Like,
Ranger candidate.
That's documented. I can tell you what is documented. What's documented is that the graduation where they present him with fucking leadership awards. work. Like, and there's pictures, and he flashed the picture like in his little video there. But
when Tim went to Ranger School, he was like every other. He had a roster number on his freaking helmet, and that's all he was. Yeah. And he was Ranger Kennedy, and he didn't mean jack shit to anybody. And they sure as crap aren't going to remember him from anybody else.
It's just like you said, it's a bunch of mean girl bullshit. However, there's a greater thing afoot, and that greater thing afoot is this need to discredit guys like Pete Hegseth, discredit someone like Tulsi Gabbard, discredit someone like Jocko Willink, discredit Tim Kennedy, and it,
on Parnell,
Now, I will say that I'm guilty of this. I'm personally, Toby Nunn is guilty of this. I'm guilty because there was a guy that just ran for vice president that I was like, this dude is not a real veteran. Like, he's definitely not a sergeant major, and he brought discredit to the core of the non-commissioned officer. And I'll say that as a member of the Sodnati Murphy Club and a guy that can still recite the NCO creed and believes in it and lives it, that guy is not a real NCO, and he's not a real warrior, and he sure as fuck shouldn't have been like out there with stolen valor. And that's exactly what that dude did. He stole valor. He stole tradition. He stole heraldry. And he's guilty of that, and it's a crime, and I'm glad that he didn't get in office because he's a piece of shit. Now, they tried saying that Tim Kennedy was like that he stole valor, that he did these things. He didn't. And it's easily discredited. And it's easily discredited because you're an author. I'm an author. We've both written things. I have a book out. You're in several books. You have a lot of stuff out there. What is something that has to pass muster when you write a military book? Like, did David Bellavia get to tell his story the way he wanted without any fact checking and DOD blessing off on it? No. Did Blog of War by Matt Burton get to go through Simon and Schuster without DOD like blessing off on it? No. Did Northern Disclosure by Toby James Nunn get to like just go to the shelves without being? No. Like, everyone that's written a book in the military realm knows that, like, if you're going to talk about something, it's got to pass muster. It's got the DOD are going to do a legal review on it and make sure that you're not putting classified information out there, then make sure that you're not Julian Assange and dumping a bunch of shit out there, like you're going to Snowden them, right? And have to hide in another country, right, for the next decade. His book got blessed off on, it passed a DOD review, which means that everything in there that talks about actual documented things such as awards, schools, something, that happened. Like, it happened. And so it's like it's like Joy Behar on the View saying Joe Rogan believes in dragons, and she checked it. Like, it's just a media smear, and it's just a different level of it. There's no difference between Joey Behar saying dumbass shit on The View and what these fucking retards said about Tim Kennedy. He didn't steal valor. He didn't do those things. Why he made a video is because there's a greater thing at foot. And someone needed to be on the record saying, and I got to tell you, Tim didn't want to make the video. I'll tell you that right now with firsthand knowledge. Tim did not want to make the video, and it bothered him because it's beneath him. He didn't need to do this.
And however, I put the link to the video up in the chat. So for those that are curious,
however, like there's a greater thing afoot. And if you're not on the record, and I got to tell you how many of like his former leaders, J.R. Akendo and all these guys that, like served with him, led him, stood next to him, stood behind him, whatever, that all came forward and are like, whoa, no, like this is bullshit. Like, and, you'll notice that none of them spoke to this podcast. even though they asked everybody to speak on that podcast. Nobody did. Nobody. Well, I think one guy did, but he didn't have firsthand knowledge. But no, it's just this greater thing of like, we have to discredit. And so we can't wait till Kavanaugh's sitting at the witness stand to drop rape allegations. Now we have to do it. We have to do it prematurely. Right. So we're going to say that Pete Hegseth is like a womanizing piece of crap. So we're going to say that now. So that's out there, because we can't bring a surprise witness that's paid for and fake to say that this guy, dry humped me when I was like 14 years old and he was 12.
This is the same playbook, right? Look at
that's why you got to be on the record saying like, hey, let's
look what they said.
Looking at the actual record.
Yeah, look what they said about JD Vance and the couch and all that kind of. I mean, they just make up the craziest. They just make allegations, right? The same stuff happened with Kavanaugh. Same stuff happened with all the Supreme Court justices, right? They just and guess what? We're going to see it because these Senate confirmation hearings are going to be televised, and even though there's no doubt that with a 53 majority, some of these people will sail through without a problem. That the left, the Cory Bookers of the world and that kind of stuff are going to take that moment to get their last 5 minutes that they can get to make a spectacle out of it. And they're going to just continue to piss off the American people who are like, this is why they voted the way they voted, because they're tired of this. But they're going to do it, and they're going to make all kind of things, and they're going to say, I heard this from an anonymous source, and so said this, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just going to be like, no one wants to put a name to it. Give them a name, right? This whole anonymous thing, you can't just make stuff up. And then because you're in Congress, you can't be held accountable for it because you're saying.
And that's the video, right? That's like, oh no, you used my name. I'm going to stand in front of the camera and say, no.
Right.
And I have really mixed feelings on it because, like when someone says something about someone you care about, you kind of want to punch them in the face. Now, am I going to go like punch either one of these guys in the face? No. Like that's just bravado.
But you could take him fishing.
The emotion's there.
You could take him fishing.
Yeah. Now, like,
just saying.
I could, but again, like here's the maturity. Like you're just a couple of guys trying to get famous, and someone offered you the opportunity and threw some money at you, and you went for it. Like what the best thing, and I think one of the most beautiful things that Tim said in his video is, and this is factual, and people never see this stuff, but I can tell you from firsthand experience, I have witnessed Tim give people opportunities they don't deserve, myself included, and wish the best for them, just purely because they needed an opportunity, not because he liked them, not because he owed them, just because maybe they served. Like Tim is constantly using his platform to lift people up, look at stuff that he wears. Look at, like he just lifts people up all the time. He uses his platform for as much positivity as he can. He's promoting health. He's promoting safe security. He's promoting schools. People don't even talk about the fact, and he didn't even bring it up. Like, how many, like the Sagami school, like, how many campuses they're putting in the next 2 years? It's not 2, it's not 3, it's not 4 campuses. It's not 10 campuses. It's not 20 campuses. It's hundreds of campuses. This dude helped create a school system that's putting a couple hundred new campuses across the country to better the education, actually educating our kids. Like everything that he does for positivity, he does for growth of the people around him and lifts them up. Look at his training partners. Look at who he corners, like in fights. Look at, the dude lifts people up. And then when people are cutting him down, he says, hey, if you served, tell your story. whatever it is. And even if it's different than mine, and no two guys are going to remember the same firefight the same way, and 15, 20 years later, you're going to probably remember it a little bit differently. And you're not going to remember everyone's name. But tell your story. Like, go out there. Like, just because he has a platform doesn't mean he has exclusivity on running his mouth.
Right.
Like, everybody. And if you disagree with me, tell me. Go out there, tell your story. Like, do it. Like, that's the beauty of America. And even when people were cutting him down and trying to discredit him, he's lifting those guys up. He could have said so much smack about those dudes. Not a bad word about them. Not a bad word about those guys. Just, like,
what are they? How do they say? With kindness.
Tell your story. And that's we need more of that. As our good friend Matt Goss would say, we need more civility.
Yep, I was hoping you bring that up. Matt always comes to mind in moments like this. But hey, well, we got to wrap it up. We've been going for about an hour 45, and it's been a while since we talked, and we get together. That's the way it is. But we covered a lot of good topics. I want to thank everyone. A lot of people were tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for those that stuck it around and are in the live part of this show. And watched and listened on all of our outlets, and for those that tune in later and watched and a whole thing after the fact, thank you so much for tuning in and liking the show. Stay up with us, follow our socials, and hopefully get Toby on more often and get the band back together. He and I are still trying to find a way for us to link back up again. Best show,
simple. You get on an airplane and you fly to Mexico.
That's what I got to do.
Simple.
Yeah. All right, that's what you do. Well, now
Trump's coming. I fly to Buffalo too, but it's easier if you come here.
Why don't you meet me at the inauguration? How about that? That's where I'll be there. So, but
rumor has it.
Yeah. So I already got the hotel booked and tickets are done. I'm gonna be back for another one. So
yeah, well, tell Christine to ignore the dude on the couch.
All right, we'll get bed. You can be over there. That's okay. Hey, I'll just throw a couple blankets down. You've slept in worse places.
Amen.
But or I come down to Mexico. I like that idea too. That would be a nonstop. We would just have to make that a reality show weekend.
Oh, geez.
But anyways, thank you everyone so much for tuning in and joining us again, listening, watching. Try to get back here. I should be back next week. Hope maybe Toby will be with me, and we got more stuff coming. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. And had a good time with family and friends, and it wasn't volatile. And with all that said, we'll let you guys have your night and your time back. And Toby, thank you much for joining us, bud. We'll see everyone later.